now we will go on to the second theme, which is gendered norms in Sri Lankan society. And here I would like to say, like, now, what role does the community play in causing gender-based violence? And here is like, what role do the elders, the society, the neighbors, policing support or unsupport gender-based violence?
Okay, so I would say again, it all depends on where you are, because you see a lot of violence happening in the villages, sometimes, and also different forms of violence. So like I said, there's physical, there's emotional, verbal, sexual abuse happening, and it happens at different levels of strata in the community. So again, there's also the urban, rural, village division there. So when you ask me that, there's so many ways to perceive this, but let me start with what society has to, the role that society plays. Sri Lanka has, and I think all other Asian countries, there is this idea that women should stay at home, and their role is to cook, clean, look after the children, and that's it. And this has not changed much, I would say, because despite the education system showing that women too have high literacy levels, so 99% just like the men, which means that they're highly educated and they even go to university, but then some of them, they don't go to work. So that's, again, due to societal norms. So they're expected to stay at home, either by their husbands or by their in-laws, and they submit. So there's this submitting kind of culture that's ongoing, even if they want to work, because sometimes it feels like they have no choice, no say. So that's one area that we see as a theme. The other is that they blindly follow, how ancestors, their parents have, evolved over time. And so they don't think out of the box, unless, of course, it's necessary for financial reasons. And that too, it'll be, a home-based business, and that's okay as long as, they're happy with it. But if at all, for financial reasons, if they're supposed to go out, then that's where some of the problems begin, because that's where the violence starts coming in. Because there'll be a lot of suspicion when it comes to the part of the husband, why did you speak to so-and-so? So, I mean, obviously, when you do go to work, then you have to interact, right? So it becomes a problem. It becomes a cycle. And then the role that the wider family plays is very high, because, and this is in the villages. So you see, so I'm going to divide it into villages, urban, and the city. So in the villages, you get your mother-in-law, you get your sister-in-law, brother, obviously your husband, and even your father-in-law, right? And your in-laws beating you up, right? So you have women who are ever abused. So they've been abused in all forms, physically, mentally, verbally, emotionally, even sexually, right? And they have there's ongoing abuse. There's abuse, sadly, during pregnancy, right? And even after giving birth. And what's striking is sometimes it's by the mother-in-law or the sister-in-law. So this is in your rural village community, but it evolves into a more psychological form of abuse towards the urban and the city area. So that doesn't mean that just because you're in a city or urban area that the violence stops. It's just that the form of abuse is very different, and that is very psychological, verbal. I would say even sexual as well. Yeah.
So and that's shocking. I think there's so much to understand as to why are these women being abused, especially by the other women in the household and their husbands. But also, before we go into that, I wanted to understand, everyone understands physical abuse, but I don't think everyone completely understands what encompasses psychological abuse and emotional abuse. So could we go into what does those forms of abuse entail? What does it look like?
Right. So when I say psychological abuse, I'm talking about the emotional aspects of, taunting, belittling, threatening. So the threat could be real, or it could be, just that perception of threat. So, the brain can't distinguish between a real threat and a perceived threat because it's doing its job, right? So if I have the time to go into it, I would like to explain it. So,
sure.
We lived during the hunter-gatherer times, right? We had our brain signaling to us, okay, you're in a group and there could be an out group coming in. So there's an alarm that goes off that there's a potential threat. And so, you keep your guard up and you're alert. So obviously you'll have your hormones kicking in, getting ready for your fight, flight, freeze system. Now we have evolved into, a very, very cultured city life, right? So to speak, but the brain has not, right? So it's the same system, but obviously we have evolved and we live in concrete jungles in front of laptops, but it's doing the same thing. So just a perception of threat is sufficient for your alarm to go off and for your biological response to take place. So it could be, a psychological abuse in the form of belittling. So what you tell, it could be very passive aggressive behavior, right? So you could be nice at one moment, but really nasty, few seconds or minutes later. You could perhaps, intimidation is one way, manipulation. So all of these belong to emotional, psychological abuse. And then sometimes you don't have to even threaten. It's about what you say verbally. That notion of a perception of threat is sufficient for one to put their guard up, to have that flight, fight, freeze system go off. And over time, when that happens over time, that's where, you start to have issues with your health, your emotional health, your mental health. And, health, again, I have to keep on saying this, health is by definition, by the World Health Organization, it's composed of physical, mental, and social health. So if you take the pandemic, right, we did see the mere perception of having contracting COVID was stressful enough for us, right? And that's to do with physical health, contracting the virus. And then you have, being socially isolated and lonely, not being able to see your loved ones. And then again, that affects your mental health, your psychological health, right? So there's a mosquito there. And so again, these three are interconnected. So over time, if you continue to have this physical kind of abuse going on over and over, it will lead to other forms of physical and social health problems, which is very, very scary.